Okay, we've fixed the technical glitches, so the council will now resume. We've gone back into council. I would move the recommendation on the screen 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7 and declare that carried. Next item is 9.3, the Environmental and Climate Change Strategy. General Manager.
Thank you, Mr. May. Mr. Arthur, the Manager, Environment and Sustainability, will introduce this item. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. May, the purpose of this report is to present Council with the draft Environment and Climate Change Strategy for endorsement to be placed on public exhibition. This 10-year aspirational and comprehensive strategy will guide investment, resourcing and program and project development and implementation. This will be an opportunity for the community to have their say on the strategy and to influence the final draft before adoption by Council. The strategy aligns with the strategic framework provided by the Community Strategic Plan and Local Strategic Planning Statement. The draft strategy has 2 priority areas and 7 focus areas and 49 commitments. The first priority area and focus areas are landscape, catchments and nature, with focus areas landscape and cultural values, catchments and waterways, bushlands and biodiversity. And the second priority area is community and place, with focus areas of green and livable places, environmentally sustainable communities, environmentally sustainable business practices, and resilient communities and places. Council engaged the consultants JOC Consulting to assist with an extensive community and internal engagement element to the drafting process and to develop the framework for the strategy. Sorry, I will. How's that? Okay, in the beginning of 2021, community engagement activities were undertaken so that the community could help shape the development of the strategy. Activities included 2 community workshops involving 57 people, a youth forum, an online survey with 411 responses, 6 village and town pop-up stalls with over 100 people participating, and over 100 and close to 2,000 people visiting the Your Say Wingecarry engagement portal and viewing the documents online there. Extensive internal consultation has taken place in the preparation of the draft strategy to ensure that the strategic goals and commitments were ambitious but also achievable. This included multiple sessions with managers and key staff to get their input into principles, priorities, focus areas and commitments, and also feedback on budget and financial implications. Each commitment has been assessed in terms of whether there is recurrent or non-recurrent grant-dependent funding, or if there is no available funding, that is it an aspirational goal for which Council could seek funding opportunities into the future. And this has been flagged in the report. The strategy is ready for public exhibition and comment. Feedback will be reviewed by Council staff and appropriate changes incorporated into a final draft strategy document to be reported back to Council for adoption.
Thanks very much. In relation to item 9.3, the Environment and Climate Strategy.
Excuse me, Mr. May. Sorry, I'm interrupt. I got thrown with our little pause. I also need to table an item in relation to 9.3, which is this item. It's an email from Derek White from WinZero in relation to the draft strategy. Apologies for that.
That's the one we both got. I've seen that.
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you very much. So that'll be incorporated into the minutes?
Yep.
Thank you. In relation to item 9.3, I would move the officer's recommendation 1 and 2 as outlined on page 35 of the business paper and declare that carried. 9.4, draft bus shelter advertising policy. General Manager.
Yes, Mr. May, before Mr. Robinson, I think, is speaking to this item, I wish to, apologies again, I wish to table some correspondence received in relation to 9.2, the Community and Rec Facility Strategy and Study by Mr. Basiki, on behalf of the Moss Vale District Basketball Association, and an email from Mr. Lockhead from the Southern Highlands Water Polo. Both gentlemen addressed council this evening, and both provided emails and correspondence earlier.
I don't think Mr. Lockhead did. I think it was another gentleman. Yeah, but look, I've seen all that correspondence, so that'll be incorporated into the minutes. Thank you very much. Mr. Robinson.
Thank you, General Manager. Mr. May, the purpose of this report is to seek Council's endorsement to not proceed with the bus shelter advertising policy. The bus shelter advertising policy was publicly exhibited through Council's online engagement platform from the 28th of June to 26th of July. The page experienced 293 visits. The draft policy was downloaded almost 200 times and 20 submissions were received. Of the 20 submissions, 19 were received through the website and 1 written submission was received. Of the submissions received, only 1 was supportive of the proposal. And I think it is important to note that one proposal, that one submission was received from a local advertising company. Notwithstanding, reviewing the situation in other council areas, it is noted that the implementation of advertising on bus shelters will require either a DA per site or an amendment to the LEP such that bus shelter advertising is classed as exempt development. A number of commercial companies were also contacted to determine what the commercial appetite or opportunities were for advertising in the Shire. However, that received a very limited response, given that these companies are located in more the Sydney-based area. And so upon consideration of the planning constraints, the minimal commercial interest and the lack of community support, it is recommended that Council does not adopt the bus shelter advertising policy.
Thanks for that. In relation to item 9.4, the draft bus shelter advertising policy, I'd move the officer's recommendation as outlined on page 66 of the business paper and declare that carried. General Manager, public interest disclosure. Ziz?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. May. I just wish to table the disclosures of interest returns that have been submitted. They will be, following this evening's council meeting, they will be scanned and uploaded to council. Oh, sorry, I apologise again. I'm a couple of reports ahead of myself. Oh, yep, apologies. The disclosures relate to a later report. I apologise.
So we're now tabling the general disclosures?
No, I've jumped ahead 6 items. So the disclosures relate to 9.11, and the item before us is actually about the changes to the PID Act, which is the Public Interest Disclosure Act.
Oh.
Sorry.
No,
Apologies. We were both 6 items ahead.
Yeah. In relation to item 9.5, Danielle.
Thank you. This report provides a revised public interest disclosure policy for adoption. The Public Interest Disclosure Bill 2022 passed Parliament on the 29th of March 2022 and came into effect in October 2023. The PID Act provides a framework for public officials to report serious wrongdoing in the public sector and to be protected when they do so. The new Act introduces reforms in the way that public interest disclosures are made, received and dealt with, and is intended to provide greater protection for those persons who make disclosures. The new Act outlines the requirements for the contents of Council's public interest disclosure policy, and this is supported by the New South Wales Ombudsman model public interest disclosure policy. The policy presented to Council is based on this model policy, and it's recommended that Council adopt this policy.
I note that the reporting for staff can be found on the Council's intranet. Can I just confirm that there's an all-encompassing option, if in effect all else fails, to go directly to the Ombudsman, that is, not the internal Ombudsman, but the external Ombudsman?
That's correct.
Thank you
Yeah.
very much. In relation to item 9.5, I'd move the officer's recommendation as outlined on page 78 of the business paper and declare that carried. 9.6, the Barrel Hall in Sutton Forest, General Manager.
Thank you, Mr. May. Mr. Kloppers, the Manager Business and Property Services, will speak to this item.
Thank you, General Manager. Mr. May, in accordance with Council's resolution of 16th August 2023, the draft schedule of fees and charges for the hire of the office space located on the first floor of the Barrel Memorial Hall and the hall space at the Sutton Forest Hall were placed on public exhibition from Thursday the 24th of August 2023 to Friday the 22nd of September. With regards to the office space located on the first floor of the Barrel Memorial Hall, as exhibited, having consideration to the feedback or lack thereof received, it's recommended that Council adopts the schedule of fees and charges for the hire of that space. For the Sutton Forest Hall, we've been in contact over an extended period of time, as we heard earlier, with Imaginato, who is the tenant at the Sutton Forest Hall. They indicated that considering their installations and the nature of the installations and the size of the installations, they'd of course prefer the current arrangements to continue, and in the item their written response notes that as well. Officers, considering the low utilisation of the facility at Sutton Forest Hall by the current licensee, currently about 2 hours or so on a Sunday each week, propose that the space be made available to the broader community and not for the sole use of the licensee. This would see the space opened up for bookings via user agreement or booking request to allow equity of access and fairness of utility and greater availability, so that it can be activated and become a multi-use space. During the period of public exhibition, 28 submissions were received, all in relation to the Sutton Forest Hall space. Details of the submissions received are outlined in the report. Council has always remained supportive of Imaginato, which is the licensees, continue use of the space for performances, whilst proposing that that use no longer be conducted under exclusive license agreement to free up the space for use by more than one group, as is the case at our other halls. Mr. May, considering the feedback received regarding the Sutton Forest Hall, officers proposed that Imaginato actually continue their occupation of the Sutton Forest Hall under license agreement until the 30th of June 2024, after which time Council reconsidered the issue in Council's 24-25 schedule of fees and charges. This would allow time for future arrangement to be discussed and possibly made by both Council and the current licensee. Thank you.
I assume that there'd be another report coming to Council in the second quarter of next year as to the future of the puppet organisation.
Mr. May, the intention of this item is to extend the current holdover until the end of the year, and then motivate as part of the fees and charges process that will actually be made available for public use. That's the current thinking. Should Council want us to come back with a further report at that time, we can certainly do that.
What worries me is this takes you nowhere unless there's a decision of the Council before the 30th of June, because you can put on public exhibition the charges and fees, but we'll end up back where we are. So just keep that in mind. But look, I found what the lady said earlier very informative, but I think there needs to be an acknowledgement of the wider Wingecarribee community at the huge, and I repeat huge, indirect subsidy the Council is giving this organisation. If they're paying $74 a week, for that facility when others are telling me they would like to hire it. I think there needs to be some kind of balance brought into it, but it may be the community wants this to stay. So, look, I agree with the recommendation, but I'll add a number 4. The General Manager provide further details on the status of the arrangements with Emma Giannata, including their last audited financial statements, July 22 to 23, attendance numbers of shows, lease arrangements, including matters such as cleaning and maintenance requirements, and the views of the wider Wingecarribee Shire community on options for usage of the hall. And I just wonder whether I should put, comma, such report be provided in the second quarter, or is that not necessary? That'll come back to us. You see where I'm coming from? Yeah. Okay, in relation to item 9.6, the Barrel Memorial Hall and Sutton Forest Hall, I would move the officer's recommendation as outlined on page 102 of the business paper, 1, 2, 3, and the 4 that I've just read appearing on the screen, and declare that carried. General Manager, proposed road closures?
Yes, again, Mr. Kloppers, thank you.
Thank you, General Manager. Mr. May. The purpose of this particular report is to seek council resolution to proceed with various road closures in Mittagong and Robertson. Under Section 38A of the Roads Act 1993, a council may propose the closure of a council public road for which it is the authority, based on three instances. The first being the road is not reasonably required as a road for public use. The second one being the road is not required to provide continuity for an existing road network. And the third one being if the road provides a means of vehicular access to a particular piece of land, or public road provides lawful and reasonable vehicular access to that land. The subject roads in this report are not required for public road access, are not required to provide continuity of existing road network, and do not provide vehicular access to any particular properties, or properties do not rely on them. All the neighbouring properties to the subject road will be advised of the proposed closures as part of the consultation process, of course, and inviting their feedback. In accordance with Section 38E of the Roads Act, upon closure, the land being the former road reserve will vest in council as operational land. Mr. Mayor, we would welcome community feedback, of course, as part of the notification process to ensure the council at the end of this process makes an informed decision. If there's any objection to the proposed closures during the period of public exhibition, a further report will be presented to a future meeting of council for consideration. So we are basically asking for the delegation to approach the market or approach the community to get their views, with a view then to getting delegation to approach the market to negotiate the best outcome, and that will of course take into consideration all the factors, not just of the land, but also the vicinity, as earlier mentioned. Thanks.
In relation to this matter, I want to respect the sites. I'm opposed to alienation of public land, and I just would like to have a look at these sites myself. It may be you go through the process, but have it declared community land. If they're not, the roads aren't necessary, but they may form. I must say I'm very pleased I went to have a look at Berrima before I decided anything, because it changed my mind. To a degree, Mittagong too. So this is the same scenario about the maintenance, in my view, of public ownership of these kind of assets. So I would move that the report be deferred to allow the administrator to undertake site inspections, and I presume they'll be organised by the staff before the next meeting. Declare that carried. 9.8. Sale of surplus operational land.
Yes, thank you, Mr May. Back to Mr Cobbers. Thank you.
Thank you, General Manager. Mr May. On 15th of February 2023, Council adopted its property investment portfolio and the property investment strategy going with that policy, which were developed to enhance and diversify Council's long-term operational income. In adopting that policy, Council reflected at the time upon the diversification of Council's income sources that will support Council's long-term financial sustainability and allow for continued delivery of quality services to the community, and the role the investment policy and the strategy could play in that into the future. In line with the objectives set by that policy and the strategy, Council officers have undertaken a review of Council operational land. Following the resolution of Council on 20 December 2023, this report provides details of 2 Council properties being vacant land at Etheridge Street, Mittagong, and Wilkinson Street in Berrima for consideration for divestment. This report recommends that Council undertake a 28-day public notification period in relation to disposal of the identified properties. Mr Mayor, of course, we would welcome any community feedback as part of the notification process so that we can ensure the Council make informed decisions at the end of the process. Thank you.
This matter was in fact deferred to allow inspection, as I understand it.
Yes.
It needs to be reported by the appropriate officer then that the inspections have taken place, so that there's continuity in the minutes.
We can certainly capture that.
Sorry?
Yes.
So that inspection took place yesterday with the director and myself. That,
Yes.
that can go into the minutes, so there's continuity. I don't agree with selling either of the sites. The 8 Etheridge Street, Mittagong, there is a substantial part of land that runs along the creek, which is obviously riparian. That creek floods. I think that happened to the RFS site. I was unaware and I wasn't briefed that there was a development approval next door, but that wouldn't make my view any different. Have we checked to see whether that's right?
Mr Mayor, we've checked the development application, and on the corner property there is a development application pending. It's currently, we understand, in front of the courts. It might have settled there. It was some bushfire issues, we understand. We're monitoring it as we go.
That would have been helpful if it was in the report. But look, I don't agree with that one. And again, because it's open space, and there's even more reason if next door is being developed, where there's a pony and a horse, I think, on there at the moment. But the Berrima one, have we had any correspondence from the Berrima Residents Association about that?
Mr May, not to my knowledge at the moment, but we haven't put it on public exhibition yet either because of the
They read the
deferred.
agenda.
They read the, yeah.
Because when I was at the Berrima meeting, they were talking about it, and I thought they resolved to write to council. So we haven't had anything.
We haven't received anything as
Our
yet.
records don't reflect.
Yeah. Well, that aside, it's a difficult block. Who maintains the land now? Who mows it?
Mr Mayor, I'll have to take that under consideration. If it was slashed or mowed when you did your inspection, I can only assume that would have been us.
Yeah, it actually is our assets, our open space area that maintains council's land.
What about the dumping on it from adjoining
I think,
properties, probably?
yeah, there is an issue at the rear there which is inaccessible because of the drainage pit, so we'll have to talk to open space about accessing that too.
That's Mr. Bray's area.
That's correct.
the land at Berrima, which was proposed for possible sale behind the toilet block, we maintain that? We do? Yeah. Well, look, in my view, the only way to get access to it would be through a driveway coming off the Hume Highway past the toilet block, which to a degree would devalue the entrance. Anyhow, look, I'm going to move that no further action be taken in relation to the sale of surplus operational land, and declare that carried. 9.9, facility cleaning. Greg Bray.
All right, thank you. Okay, Mr. Bray, Manager Shire presentation, thank you.
Got it. Thank you. General Manager, Mr. Bay. The purpose of this report is to present the evaluation of the request for tender for facility cleaning services. Council conducted an open tender process for the purpose of establishing a contract for the provision of facility cleaning services for Council for an initial 1-year contract period with provisions for 3 1-year extension options. The tender invited contractors to submit rates for 2 categories. Category 1, scheduled cleaning services for the generic cleaning of council building assets. Category 2, ad hoc cleaning services for the intermittent and touch point deep cleaning purposes. The tender advertising period was from Tuesday the 25th of July 2023 to August the 15th 2023, a total of 21 days, with a tender briefing held on the 3rd of August 2023. A total of 14 submissions were received. Upon evaluation, a total of 3 tender submissions were determined to be non-compliant. The tender evaluation panel agreed to award a panel size of 6 for both contract categories in accordance with council operation requirements. Awarded contractors under this tender will be engaged in accordance with a schedule of rates submitted under the tender process for each category as required. In conclusion, Council has a need to efficiently source various contractor services for the cleaning as planned and at an ad hoc basis for meeting Council's operational needs on delivering Council's cleaning programs. Thank you.
There's no local providers. Is that normal?
There's 2 local providers. They're in the category 2. That's specific cleaning and commercial property cleaning.
Commercial property cleaning at Underwood, Queensland.
I've got that one right, but there is 2 local providers. The Pacific Facility Cleaners are based in Barrow, I believe.
Not according to the report.
I was advised this afternoon by procurement that was the case. I can
Oh, be that as
check
it
into
may.
that, yes.
I just found that interesting. So our public toilets are cleaned by contractors, are they?
No, they're cleaned by internal staff. There are, I suppose, there may be within larger facilities like the council chambers, there are cleaned by the cleaners. However, it's a bit of a hybrid between contractor and council staff. Most of the public toilets you see that are out in the public are all cleaned by council staff, though.
During tulip time,
Yes.
the cleaning of toilets in Corbett Gardens, was that done by council staff?
As I'm aware, I think it is, yes, was council staff.
The toilets across the road near Coles,
Again, council staff, yes.
but there was no extra cleaning arranged during tulip time?
There was, yeah, no, there was.
There was?
There's definitely extra cleans there, yes.
Of both the toilet blocks?
Both blocks, yes.
Anyhow. Okay, all right, in relation to, and that was done by day labour?
That's correct.
Yeah. So what do these cleaning contractors do?
The contracts is for cleaning of the Civic Centre, halls, and facilities like our office blocks, mean Moss Vale Council's office blocks at Moss Vale Depot and Middleton Depot. There's
So
many
you
halls.
go to these people on your list and just get prices and how to do it?
That's correct. It's based on the schedule rates.
Yeah, it makes sense. That way you can chop and change if you want.
It is. We also have issues with staff when we do have internal cleaning staff that do halls as well. Like for example, the Ramwick Community Hall that's cleaned by internal council staff. However, at times they are unavailable, so we need the opportunity to actually use on an ad hoc basis a contractor to fill the void when they're not there.
Mhm. Okay, in relation to item 9.9, I'd move the officer's recommendation 1, 2 and 3 as outlined on page 147 of the business paper and declare that carried. Next item, Parks Road, Lecky Road Stormwater Network.
Thank you, Mr. May. I'll just wait for Mr. Robinson to make his way to the microphone. So the manager assets, Mr. Robinson, will speak to this item. Thank you.
Thank you, General Manager. Mr. May, the purpose of this report is to provide Council with a review of the stormwater network within 15 Parks Road, Moss Vale and Lackey Park, as resolved at Extraordinary Council meeting 26th of April earlier this year. The stormwater network in question traverses along the western boundary of 15 Parks Road in the form of dual concrete pipes. The stormwater network then passes through Lackey Park and eventually to the north of Sagewick Place, and then returns to a natural watercourse, which eventually connects to the Wingecarribee River. The design of the stormwater network in Lackey Park, with its interface with 15 Parks Road, is such that during large rain events, the flow of water is intended to overtop the downstream 375 millimetre head wall and instead be conveyed via overland flow. These high flow systems have the dual benefit of offering on-site flood storage and providing water sensitive urban design benefits. Review of the stormwater network has found it to be of satisfactory condition and performance, and so there is therefore no upgrade of the open channel to a pit and pipe network programmed. If the channel was to be converted to a pit and pipe network, the on-site and water sensitive urban design benefits would be lost. The on-site flood storage benefits would be lost also. And so stormwater capital projects are proposed to instead continue to focus on condition-based renewal and the implementation of recommendations from the floodplain management program. The report therefore recommends that Council simply receive and note this report.
Would it be fair to say that there are literally hundreds of such similar circumstances across the Shire?
In the instance of stormwater pipes passing through private property, yes, that's just commonplace and part of the design. High flow and low flow systems are, I guess, relegated to council reserves, and so there's plenty of instances across the Shire. Maybe not hundreds and thousands, but it's not uncommon.
Yeah.
It's a standard design option.
But in this circumstance here, there is no threat to the flooding of private property internal to the property, if you know what I mean.
Not as a result of the stormwater network. Given a large enough rain event, the stormwater network will always exceed capacity. However, any flooding wouldn't be occurred as a result of the current design.
Okay, thanks very much for that. In relation to item 9.10, 15 Parks Road and Lackey Park, Moss Vale Stormwater Network, I'd move the officer's recommendation as outlined on page 153 of the business paper and declare that carried. General Manager now, 9.11, disclosure of interest returns.
Thanks, Mr. May. Take two. So I'd like to table the annual disclosure of interest returns. There you go. And following the meeting today, they'll be uploaded to the website. I'll ask Ms. Lidgard to speak further to this item. Thanks.
Not really. I think the General Manager's covered it. Thank you.
item 9.12. Ms Lidgard will introduce this item. Thank you.
Thank you. This report is for council to determine the number of councillors for the 24-28 term of office as required by section 224 of the Local Government Act. Under section 16 of the Act, council is not able to change the number of councillors unless approval has been given by a constitutional referendum. A constitutional referendum to change the number of councillors for Wingecarribee has not been held. Therefore, council must determine the number of councillors for the next term as 9, including the mayor.
So in effect, each director would get to go to one of the panels, even if it's not theirs, in their area, once a year. Just so that there's cross-fertilisation, if I could put it that way. Okay, in relation to item 9.14, I'd move the officer's I'd move as on the screen there, and declare that carried. Audit risk and improvement meeting, page 192. There is no introduction to that matter. I would move the officer's recommendation as outlined on page 192 of the business paper and declare that carried. In relation to, there's a late item, and I would move the standing orders be suspended in order to consider a supplementary item, and then I would move in accordance with clause 9.3b of the Code of Meeting Practice, this be treated as a as a matter of urgency and declare that carried, and I subsequently, as chair, determine that it is an urgent matter. I don't think we need to do suspension of standing orders, it's just that it be treated as a urgent matter. General Manager, I declare that carries. General Manager.
Thank you, Mr May. I'll ask the Manager, Community Life and Libraries, Ms Julith Badgett, to introduce this item and provide an overview of why we needed to bring this to you this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you, General Manager, through you to Mr May. Thank you. So the purpose of this report is to recommend funds for local organisations for community resilient projects under the Community Resilient Small Grants Program for 2023. So Council may recall in 2020-2021, we received funding to the sum of $250,000 from the New South Wales Government under the Bushfire Community Recovery and Resilience Fund following the Black Summer bushfires. So this funding was distributed across a range of projects. However, recently, we requested a variation to the New South Wales Reconstruction Authority, formerly known as Resilience New South Wales, to use our unspent funds of $73,360 to be reinvested back into community-based projects. So this was to provide a program of small grants across the Wingecarribee. So the aim of this program is for preparedness projects, for bushfires, resilience programs, to provide an opportunity for community connection and also to strengthen community resilience in the Shire. So these organisations that are recommended here will either need to provide or already have provided financial statements to be able to receive this funding. Where they haven't provided it, we'll be requesting it before we release any funds. The reason why it had to come as a late item is the funding round closed late September. They were only considered last week, and we weren't in sync with the council report deadlines. However, these funds have to be spent by the 1st of December. So there's a small window for these community organisations. So if it's resolved tonight, we'll let those community groups know tomorrow and release the funds.
And these community groups know that it's a one-off.
They absolutely do.
Thank you. And you've confirmed that the appropriate audited financial statements, as is the council's rule for any money we give out. Okay, thank you. In relation to item SA1 on page 3 of the supplementary agenda, I'd move the officer's recommendation 1, 2, 3 and 4 and declare that carried. The final item on my lists, the council's obligation to councillor's obligation to maintain records. I thought the councillors had to maintain records, so I was right. But not at the same standard, obviously, as what the administration has to. Under the portal, will councillors have the ability to maintain records in that?
If they're submitting information electronically, that will be able to be captured into our document management system. What we'll work with councillors on doing, if they're receiving paper copies that are official business, that we would work to capture that into our corporate systems as well, if it comes outside of the portal.
But it will be captured in the council's corporate system, but on a confidential basis between the councillor and whoever their correspondent is, I would presume?
Yes.
Thank you. In relation to item 10.1, I'd move the officer's recommendation as outlined on page 220 of the business paper and declare that carried. General Manager, any other items?
No, Mr. May.
Thanks. Well, I thank everyone for their attendance. Our numbers have dwindled over the night, but declare the meeting